Greetings, and welcome to my presentation entitled An Overview of Democratic or Participative Leadership. According to Gastrell, democratic or participative leadership is defined as a style of leadership that distributes responsibility among the membership, empowers group members, and aids the group's decision-making process. Democratic leaders surround themselves with competent workers who are not only empowered, but encouraged to assist in decision-making for the organization. Although there have long been democratic leaders, recognition of democratic leadership as a style originated in the 1930s and 1940s. Kurt Lewin, a noted behavioral researcher, conducted studies that documented the value of this style of leadership in organizations, and he and his fellow researchers concluded that this style was the most popular among workers. It is interesting to note that originally the style was more popular in Europe. In fact, Norway legally mandated worker participation in businesses in 1977, and many attribute their strong economy and low unemployment rates, at least in part, to this legislation. Components of democratic or participative leadership consist of inclusiveness and participation. Employees are included in the decision-making process, and they are encouraged to participate. This style is based on mutual respect of both leaders and workers, and the leaders and workers collaborate in decision-making for the organization. The leader considers the ideas and opinions of the workers, but has the final authority and responsibility in the decision-making process. Therefore, it is imperative that the leader be strong and the workers experienced and skilled. What characteristics do democratic leaders need to survive in an organization? He, or she as it may be, has to have vision. In order to guide workers in the proper direction, the leader needs to know where the organization is headed. In other words, they need to be goal-oriented. The democratic leader should be self-confident and decisive. They also need to be a role model, as it is imperative that workers respect their leader. These leaders should be team-oriented and not afraid to roll up their sleeves when required. And when there is disagreement in the team, the leader plays the role of a mediator. This requires flexibility and fair-mindedness. And lastly, the democratic leader should be proficient at multitasking, as they may be overseeing many teams at one time. Advantages of this participative style are that the leaders encourage worker empowerment, which in turn increases worker confidence in management. This leads to improved morale, better job satisfaction, and less absenteeism, which increases creativity and productivity. However, poor decisions may be costly if workers are inexperienced. Disagreements between workers are inevitable, and there can be discontent if a worker's ideas are not accepted. Because of worker input, it may be difficult to make a rapid decision if needed. And lastly, leaders may become overburdened if they are overseeing many teams consecutively. Business enterprises and other organizations are well suited to this form of leadership. A few well-known companies that have a democratic leadership philosophy are Apple, Google, Twitter, and Amazon. We could also add FedEx, Costco, and Whole Foods to this list. These companies empower their employees, encourage autonomy and participation, and promote equality. Their organizations have prospered as a result of increased worker satisfaction and productivity. And while hospitals and other healthcare facilities require autocratic leadership to ensure consistency and accountability, medical staff such as physicians and nurses tend to perform well under this type of collaborative leadership. Mayo Clinic is a nonprofit organization known worldwide for their exemplary health care, which thrives on a democratic participative leadership. Some examples of democratic leaders would be U.S. presidents such as George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, Dwight D. Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, and Jimmy Carter. Nelson Mandela, a civil rights activist from South Africa, Tommy Lasorda, manager of the LA Dodgers, and Muhtar Kent, chairman of the board of directors for Coca-Cola, are leaders that would also be considered to fit into this category. I chose Steve Jobs to spotlight as an example of this form of leadership. However, he admits that when he founded Apple in 1976 with Wozniak, he was more of a laissez-faire type of leader. The company flourished, and when he transformed into an autocratic leadership, the company faltered, and in 1985 he was stripped of his control by the board of directors and he resigned as CEO of the company. In the interim, he developed Pixar Animation Studios and helped develop the first ever computer animated film. In 1997, he was reinstated as Apple CEO, and this time he instituted a democratic form of leadership. He surrounded himself with competent, skilled workers, empowered them, and we all know the rest of the story. Apple became one of the most successful companies in history. I included this quote from Tommy Lasorda. I believe that managing is like holding a dove in your hand. Squeeze too hard and you kill it, not hard enough and it flies away. Here are my references for your review. This concludes my discussion on the democratic or participative style of leadership. I hope that this presentation assisted you in better understanding this collaborative form of leadership. Thank you.